Well, many notable New South Wales Labor figures have given their analysis of what went so badly wrong for the party in the weekend's election. Until now, one important voice has been missing, that of the former Prime Minister Paul Keating. To remedy that, he's with me tonight in our Sydney studio. Nice to see you, Mr Keating.
Thank you, Leigh.
What's gone wrong?
Well, what's gone wrong is that the Labor government of New South Wales had its moral authority torn away from it. When the machinery of the party decided to usurp the prerogatives of the parliamentary government, which is what it did, it destroyed the sole case of the government inside. You know, and you saw Morris Yema go, and you saw people like John Watkins go. Everyone expected, you know, that he may, Watkins or other people of substance would come to the leadership. Once these things happen, the fracture's on, and then the sort of spiritual core of the show falls to pieces.
So are you saying that it was the party machinery that took away the moral authority of the government?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Look, the electricity privatisation went through the caucus 7 times on 7 occasions. So, you know, when you go to a conference where, in the end, the party organisation is not prepared to knock over the party president, who happened to be the secretary of the ETU, Bernie Reardon, notwithstanding the fact that the government was going to look after all of his members, and the party secretary puts his hand up at a conference, as Carl Bitar did, against the premier who was standing in front of him, you know the whole basis of the government's in trouble.
But they would no doubt argue that they were standing up for members of the party who didn't want to see electricity privatised.
Instead of knocking Reardon over, like in the end, Christina Keneally had to do about 7 weeks ago, when his own journal was proselytising against the government of the party that he was president, mind you, they should have knocked him over and said, that is Unions New South Wales and the party leadership, including the secretaryship, should have said, Bernie, we're not having it. You know, we're not going to destroy the government over this.
So why do you think it's come to this?
Well, look, let me just say this to you. This is the great thing about people not taking the public with them. You see, one of the reforms of the government I led was to separate generation from distribution. All on the east coast of Australia, there is now a public transmission company, and the public and private power stations fund and sell electricity into that market. So when you switch on a light in Sydney, the electricity funding for that power could come from a power station in South Australia or in Queensland. But this nonsense which Reardon and the Labor Council, the old Labor Council, went on with, if it's not New South Wales electricity, we can't have it. It's like saying, we'll only drink New South Wales water. If the water doesn't fall on New South Wales, we're not drinking it. Now, this is the kind of twaddle that the party office was prepared to go along with, instead of saying, look, power stations were invented with Thomas Edison. They are a 19th century bit of kit. And here we are 100 odd years later, arguing about power stations which are 50 years old, when the capital should be into health, transport and other things.
But why do you think, though, that the party machinery got to a situation where it was prepared to be at odds with the parliamentary wing of the party? Because it hasn't always been like that. What was driving that in your view?
What was driving it was basically hanging on to the ETU obscurantist Neanderthal view which Bernie Reardon, the party president, had. And instead of knocking him over and backing the government, you see, look, all the party presidents in my time, Fred Campbell, Charlie Oliver, John Ducker, myself as president, John McBean, our job was to protect the government of the day. That was our job.
And that's changed?
Well, they decided to destroy the government of the day in front of their eyes at their conference.
It seems that John Robertson is going to be Labor's new leader in New South Wales. You wrote to him in 2008 in the context of the electricity privatisation issue, and you wrote that if the Labor Party's stocks ever get so low as to require your service in its parliamentary leadership, it will itself have no future. Is that still your view?
Correct. Yes, it is my view.
So the Labor Party has no future?
Well, there's no moral... You see, if were Robertson to be elected leader, he would have no moral vantage point to lead from. I mean, I mean, jumping on and off buses and trains as Transport Minister doesn't give you any authority out there to be leader of the party. If you've actually connived in the destruction of the parliamentary leader and are a principal cause why 24 or 5 members of Parliament have lost their seats in Parliament, if those dead men and women are hanging around your neck, and they are, you've lost the vantage point of the leadership. You've lost the point of moral authority.
Did you ever suggest that you would resign from the ALP if Mr Robertson became Labor leader?
No. I'm a life member. I'll see fly-by-nighters like him out well and truly.
So what happens to the party then if he assumes the leadership on Thursday?
Well, it just means they go nowhere. That's all. It must means. You see, in the latest publication of Live Wire, this is Bernie Reardon's famous ETU monthly sheet. He's urging support for Robertson, right? It's the same old gang. When Robertson returns, if he returns to leadership, there is no change. So all of those changes, which really began with, the rot set in really when Rosendale became the secretary, followed by Arbib and then Bitar. What it really means is that a Robertson leadership endorses that view, endorses that amoral view of the way the party should operate.
The former New South Wales Premier Maurice Yemmer says the disease in New South Wales Labor is spreading to Canberra. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. But there are federal implications of simply the scale of the coalition win in New South Wales. You take almost every state electorate between the Hawkesbury River and Newcastle is now in the hands of the coalition. This is going to must affect federal seats. And
so you think that will, if there was a federal election, that this would be reflected?
Well, it just means that all that fighting horsepower is on the ground and all those enthusiastic new members of Parliament.
You say that the disease hasn't spread to Canberra, but isn't the fact that Kevin Rudd was dumped in his first term as Prime Minister when people got nervous about the party's standing in the community and how it was polling, isn't that evidence that the New South Wales disease is spreading? Yeah, well, I noticed Bruce Hawker out there today from Hawker Britain out there trying to talk up Robertson's prospects. You know, that sicko populism is what we just simply don't need any more of. I mean, the thing that characterises this group is they believe in nothing. They're not about policy. They're just about winning the next election. It's about poll reading, winning the next election. People make that criticism of Labor politicians in Canberra too.
Oh, no, I don't think you can.
You say there are federal implications then. If John Robertson does become the New South Wales opposition leader, what can the federal Labor government do to counter the effect of that?
Nothing. They've got it'll be like lead weight in the saddlebags. That's all. More weight for Julia Gillard to drag along.
Why do you think the Gillard government is struggling in the polls?
All governments struggle in the polls, particularly when you take on big issues. They all struggle, you know. I used to say, you know, I had this road run analogy, you know, with John Hewson. I was the road runner and he was Wile C. Coyote. And I used to say to the caucus, if you run fast enough, you burn the road up behind you. There's no road for anybody else. You see, governments that wander along, uncertain about where they are or what their remit is, looking over their shoulder, invariably get run over themselves, you know. So Julia Gillard's taken a big issue on with carbon and carbon pricing, and all power to her, and it will give authority and energy to her government.
Paul Keating, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.